everybody, for our first partner streamer guest today. We have Double Boy here with us. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you for taking the time in the middle of your move and everything to come and chat with us today on some variety versus solo gaming.
Of course.
So if you guys have any questions you want to ask, feel free. We have that link right there. You guys can post all of your questions. We'll get some questions in, and then of course if you have any questions for Jumbo Boy himself, you can absolutely ask those as well. So I guess the first question that I want to start off with while we wait for some questions to come in is going to be, when switching games, concerns about dropping followers when you change from one game to another. Did you kind of experience that? Like, were you like a variety gamer from the get-go?
So I originally started streaming. I played a game called Paladins, and I was on a competitive team. So 99% of my streams were one game for probably the first 8 months of me streaming. And it's definitely very hard to break into variety when you've established yourself on a single game. I think one of the biggest piece of advice I would give to someone who's new to streaming or still starting streaming, if they want to do variety, is that you need to try and work it into your schedule regularly, because you will definitely lose some followers and drop viewers if you only establish yourself playing a single game.
The switching at first can be tough, as opposed to starting.
I think it's a lot easier to grow playing a single game, to build a community and to be consistent in one game. A lot of people who enjoy watching Twitch, right? Some will come for the streamer, but a lot of people are interested in the game first, and that's how they find you. And so it can be harder to grow during variety, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I think if you can work a schedule to maybe do variety on some days, but then have a lot of days where you're set to stream whatever main game you're playing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right, well, so what kind of experiences did you have when you decided to finally switch off Paladins? Were you finding that your community latched on to whatever game you played because they enjoyed you, or did you have a lot of people who are like, oh, he's not playing Paladins, I'm done with this, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, totally. So I think one of the huge issues I had is that I was a competitive player. So I played in a couple international LAN tournaments, and I was very much established in the scene that way. And so I saw a lot of blowback when I stopped playing the game. I probably lost 200 concurrent viewers or more. But I was a lot happier. And I think that's the huge point for me, was that I wasn't enjoying playing the game anymore. And if you're not enjoying yourself streaming, it could be a job, but the whole reason I switched to streaming was it was a job that I wanted to do because I enjoyed it. So once I kind of stopped having fun and was not enjoying the scene anymore, I had to make the move for myself.
That's a good point. See, that kind of ties in with what I was saying. When I tried to switch over, I'm not a variety gamer. It's just not what I'm into. And I feel bad because, I want to try if someone suggests something, but you're not having fun, don't force yourself to do something because your viewers want you to. My first question came in, would you advise recording, so I guess this is for single games, would you advise recording VODs for people to catch up on a story, or are you in it just for the gameplay?
Ooh, well, okay, so if you're playing a single player style game, I think VODs are really good. I definitely have some viewers who, I think one of the struggles with playing a single player style story game is that if you miss a stream, you might totally be out of the loop on what happened. So having VODs is really important then to catch up. But I think most popular games that are streamed these days are of the variety that are not, if you miss a stream, it doesn't matter. Fortnite, for example, or League of Legends, right? Every game is small, it's 20 minutes. If you come in midway through a game, you can usually figure out what you missed. And I think that style of game lends itself more often to streaming than single player games or story-based games.
Very good, very good. What about keeping people around when you are switching? How do you kind of introduce the fact that you are thinking about trying a new game to your stream? Obviously, once you're more established, it's easier, but when you first decided that you're going to switch off your main game, how did you kind of introduce that to your viewers and kind of entice them to stay with you?
So I think what I tried, and a couple of my friends also left Paladin soon after I did it, what we found worked best was to start streaming the game still, but do it for maybe, I don't know, a quarter or half of your time slot. So I would do 2 hours of Paladins first, and then I would switch. And I would try and be honest about it with everyone and tell them that I wasn't really enjoying the game as much anymore, and that I was really excited to play these other games, and that hopefully, they would stick around and check it out and still enjoy watching me play other stuff. And so I think kind of working it in that way worked really well to kind of retain some people, but still keep giving them the content they want. And if they don't want to stay after, that's fine. You can't really do anything about that.
Get them to come for what you're usually doing, and then you switch to what you want to do. So that's what I did when I incorporated Osu. I started doing Osu at the end of all my streams, as I still wanted to play League of Legends, but I wanted to start playing Osu every day. And I dropped League for a little while and went right to Osu, and everyone's like, well, this used to be a League stream. I'm like, okay, I got this. I'll play League, and then I'll switch to Osu, because I've already established my League viewers at this time of day. But I haven't established any Osu streamer or Osu viewers, so I can add them at the end. So it kind of all ties in together. A really good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
And
Yeah,
Sarah, I will compliment you on this. Sorry, Bubble. I will compliment on you on being able to switch over to Osu while you're waiting for a game of League to start. That's actually a really good integration that you've done in order to introduce that to your League viewers. So they're going to cheer you on too. That is awesome.
I'll just never forget the best feeling is when I first started playing Osu, and a lot of viewers, this is going to be 2 points in one. A lot of viewers would be like, okay, you're playing Osu. All right, I'm out for the night. See ya. I'm like, bye. And now they're more hyped up about Osu because they're seeing me improve. And now they start sticking around, which is cool because they realize they like me for no matter what I'm playing. And then this brings up a second point that I kind of thought of when I started saying that. Please, as a viewer, don't tell your streamer that you're leaving just because you don't like the game that they're playing, because then they're going to feel bad. Just gotta go, see ya, or thanks for the stream, I'll be around, or I'll be around later. Like, don't tell them that you're leaving because of the game that they're playing, because then they feel bad and they feel like they're not doing a good job for doing what they want to do. Sorry for the little side pull in there. So how about knowing when to switch? Now, I know that you mentioned that you kind of would do your first half and your second half of both games. Do you have any sort of schedule for picking what game you play? Because I know you play a lot of games now.
Yeah, so when I first started doing more variety, I had a whole system. I would try and do indie games on Wednesdays, and I would still stream content that everyone expected, whether it was Paladins, or later on I became a partner with another game called Warframe. So I would do those Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And then Sundays, I did sub Sundays, which I really enjoyed, and I think my community really latched onto, where they would vote for any game that I owned or any game that they were willing to donate, and then I would play that first on Sunday until we reached a point where everyone wanted me to switch games, and they would vote for what I would play after that. So it gave me 2 days of variety, 1 day off, and then a couple days of doing content that I wanted. And for me, I think that worked really well for a long time.
Of voting, that definitely sounds like a really cool idea. Awesome. What about now? I know you play a large range of games now. Do you let them pick what game you play off of like a list of games you already want to do, or how do you handle like suggestions from like viewers to play games you haven't tried? How do you set that up?
So since I had a pretty wide variety of games, like my Steam library is probably like 1,600 games, and I like playing all different genres. I basically have a system where the longer running subs get to nominate first, and then once we have 10 games nominated, that'll be the end of the sub list for that day. And then whoever comes into the stream on Sub Sunday, whether they're a sub or just a regular, everyone gets to vote. It's just a regular poll, but it's of a subset of games picked by my subs.
Okay.
So that way, like, subs have some influence, but also regular viewers still get kind of the final say in what game we end up playing that day. And so then there becomes like long-running favorites or joke games that everyone really wants to watch you play, like Getting Over It by Bennett Foddy was an example of one that we played a couple of times.
Oh yeah, I did that one once. That was a mistake. Never been so angry playing a video game in my life. Wow. Kudos to you for that one.
Yeah, I won't play that.
I really like those kind of games, which might have been a letdown to some of my viewers because I was having fun.
Well, props to you for that. So I guess this kind of question we kind of answered. So do you recommend setting a schedule for what games you're going to play, but or do you just, again, you have like the days that you're playing certain games, then you have your variety days set?
Yeah, I think when switching to variety, right, a lot of people like you for certain types of content. Hopefully you can build viewers who just want to watch you do anything, right? But even then, having a schedule so people know what to expect really helps. So if you have times where they know what game you're going to play, and so if they don't want to watch, then, or they don't like that game, they just won't show up. Saves them time rather than having them come in and be disappointed. I think it just kind of sets a better expectation.
Yeah. That's what I would definitely talk about from my experiences from switching to only League of Legends to playing League of Legends and Osu pretty consistently. One thing that's nice is that when you do variety gaming, if you can establish a viewer base on one game, then you have the people that come and go, but you have your regulars from that one game. And then you switch to another game. Now, I'd say of your regulars, about half of them are probably going to continue watching because of you, no matter what you're playing. So now you've gone into a new game and you have that little chunk of viewers, so you're already at a decent viewer base for that. And then you build new regulars from your new game. Now, you already have that group of people that are going to watch you no matter what you play. And then you're going to gain a new group that's going to be the same thing. There's going to be another half that's going to watch you no matter what you play. And then there's going to be that other chunk that just wants to watch you play Osu. And all of a sudden, you combine these two groups, they're going to watch you no matter what you're playing. And then you can do that with multiple games, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, no, and I absolutely agree with that. I mean, and that's, starting as a variety streamer myself, that was one of the hardest things was if I stopped playing Overwatch, I would see that my viewer count would drop a little bit because everyone was used to me playing Overwatch, but then I'd go try, Dark Souls or something like that. But again, it comes down to incorporating your community and getting them used to that fact right off the bat. Now, again, I had the advantage of doing that right from the beginning where, Bubble had where they were used to seeing paladins, and that's a harder struggle right there. So yeah, man, more props to you for being able to convert those viewers over and being able to keep them sticking around. That's awesome, because those are the people that are there to actually support you, and they're there for you regardless of what you play.
Absolutely. I guess this is kind of like, I'm kind of more in the blue about this topic since I don't really do variety gaming, in my opinion. What would you I guess what would you do in terms of picking what games that you think are wise to try, in terms of like, obviously there's the games that just come out that, everybody streams for a little bit and then the hype is gone. Everyone wants to see the one run through of that one game and then no one cares anymore. But like, how do you pick what games, I guess this is to both of you guys, are worth playing on stream when you're doing variety stuff, whether it be a day that you're switching games or not? Because obviously you want to pull in viewers, but like, how do you kind of pick what games to play?
I guess I'll start. I'd say there's two big decisions you'll have to make. But the first one is there's two types of variety streaming. Variety streaming where the focus is on growing, and then there's variety streaming where the focus is on you having fun and being more entertaining. And I'd say with the former, a lot of it depends on your current viewer base size. So a lot of larger streamers will jump from title to title, playing the new games, or single play through all of that. And there's a lot of interest in those right now. So if you don't have a sizable audience, say 200, 300 viewer base, you're probably not going to get any click through from new people checking out that new game. And if you just want to play the new game and stream it, that's fine. But you kind of go into it knowing that you're not going to get any new growth. And I guess on the flip side, I'd say there's other games that you could grow in. So I would put Fortnite, for example, as a category that a lot of people know that they can grow in. There's a lot of interest. So even if it's maybe not your main game, you'll see that a lot of streamers who don't play Fortnite or don't play that type of genre jumping into it now and flexing and trying to get hold of that large market, even if it's not their main.
Yeah, because they know that it'll still be really helpful.
Right.
So now, does that mean that you shouldn't play like the small indie games that don't really have much of a background or following? Go ahead. What's your opinion on that one?
side. I personally love playing those games, and you will probably get a couple people. You might not get, 100 people clicking through your stream, 100 new viewers. You might only get one or two. But I do think that people who click through on those games are more likely to stay, because if you enjoy those types of games and you're streaming it, they'll probably stick around because they want to see more of those genres. And I think another kind of small point, it depends on the size of your stream, but if you reach out to developers who make those smaller indie games are often really helpful. So one developer really liked that I was streaming the game when it came out and ended up sending me some emails. And then for whatever games they published later, I also got free keys or early access. And
Oh,
all
that's
that
awesome.
in helping you get found or having other people find your stream.
That's cool. Yeah, people probably love early release games and everything. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Like, I guess, for example, like I was playing a game that came out a while ago. I just finished Metal Gear Solid 3 on stream yesterday. And I've probably had some of my best viewership on that game. And I would, one of my mods went and checked the page, like, I think 2 days ago. And there was only maybe 3 people streaming that the entire time. But I mean, I retained anywhere between 30 to 40 viewership on average throughout those streams. So it's hard to say. It's one of those things where, how do you choose that game? I don't know. I was just feeling like Metal Gear Solid at the time, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to stream this and I don't care, and we'll see what happens. And I think because I was having fun with it, people were coming in. But you could have the same thing with any other game too, like where you're having fun with it, you might not get the viewership. So again, it's one of those things where as long as you're having fun, that's really all that matters,
Yeah. That's awesome. I didn't really think about ever reaching out in terms of smaller name games. That's cool. So what other recommendations, tips do you have in terms of, switching games? I guess here's a question that I thought of. When you're coming to switching games, so occasionally when my view count spikes and I get super excited because I'm having a lot of fun, and all of a sudden it's about that time where I want to switch games, but I get nervous because I don't want to switch games because I have the views and I don't want to lose the views. How do you kind of deal with that battle? I'm not sure if that really makes sense the way I'm wording it, but
I think when you're thinking about switching games, right, and say you're doing really well, you're above your normal view count in a game, but normally you would switch, or then you have to decide, do I want to switch, or should I kind of stick it out and ride this out and see, if I can keep this many views because I'm going to get more interest. I think once again, it kind of depends on what you're in it for streaming. I'd say there's kind of 2 modes, and I've jumped between both. There's kind of streaming where you're really focused on growing more than you are on necessarily having fun, and then there's streaming where you're doing it because I think it's kind of hard to separate it. But streaming is both my break sometimes, but also my work. So
yeah.
some days I think you really want to focus on getting that growth, and then on those days I would stay in that game, right? Maybe ride it out as long as I can until I got tired, or maybe the viewer count dropped back to what was considered normal, or whatever. But then there's other days where like I really just want a break, and so I would try and be as open as about it and be like, I usually play this game all the time, but I'm super excited about this other game. Hopefully you guys will stay and check it out. If not, I'll see you next time on, say, Thursday when I'm streaming that game.
Okay. So I guess that's one of those things you gotta kind of keep in mind, like what it is that you're streaming for, drawing the line of where your fun is. I think that's one thing I struggle with sometimes, is because I'm trying to do that 365 days of OSU stream, and like there are times where it's rough to switch over because I have a lot of viewers on League, or I'm like having a lot of fun playing League, and I'm like, okay, well, it's getting late, I really need to get some OSU in, and I just kind of like, I guess it becomes like a struggle or anything. So now how do you handle that? You mentioned taking suggestions. Someone asked, how do you handle suggestions of new games from your viewers? I know you mentioned this a little bit earlier. You said you take mentions from your subs for new games, only subs.
Yeah, so basically what I have on is on my Discord channel, I have a sub only chat, and then every week around like Thursday or Friday, before Sub Sunday, we would just have a place where anyone can nominate a game. And so the games or any sub can nominate a game. So technically, viewers cannot. But usually there's one spot they leave where I get to choose my own game. So if a lot of people had been asking like for me to play it, then I'll usually, go with whatever it is if I want to play it, right? Sometimes there's games that people really want to watch me play that I have no interest in or I don't think would be a good fit for my channel. Like Doki Doki Literature Club was a very popular one that I just didn't think would really fit. So I didn't end up playing that one.
Yeah, that was kind of a rough one because that's one thing that I looked into is I'd have people recommend, like a lot of people asked me to play Doki Doki and I was like not feeling it. And I didn't want to it's hard when you get like people that ask you to play a certain game or they really like it and you kind of don't know where to draw your line of like, you want to obviously keep them happy, but you don't want to be unhappy. So again, you have to try and like balance that out, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a line you have to find for yourself. And I think sometimes I've enjoyed games that they recommended that I didn't think I would like. But if you're, having a rough day or something and you're not going to have fun going into it, I think the most important thing is to keep happiness going in the sense that like when the streamer's not having fun, it's really hard for chat and everyone else around to be super positive and uplifting, I've found. So usually I try and be that force in whatever community or game you're in. And so if you're kind of lacking that, then I think the stream just feels different.
Yeah. We have another question. I don't like variety gaming and I only want to play one game. Am I hurting my chance at gaining more viewers because I'm only playing one game?
So I don't think you're hurting yourself in any way. I think actually playing a single game is probably the fastest way to go since your viewers will consistently know what game to find you on and you can build up a community around that single game. But I think in the future, I think most games don't live longer than a year or two with a few exceptions. Or maybe say even earlier than that, you get tired of that game or there's a patch that changes everything and now you want to switch. It will be much harder for you to transition into a new game with that audience built. So you're not screwing yourself, but you do have to know there's a slight risk involved.
All right. Are there any other points that you want to get onto? But if we still have quite a few minutes of time to chat.
Going off of what with the question, the big thing is, you're not really hurting yourself, but like he said, you got maybe about a year, with the exception of some games. Like there's a partnered streamer on my stream team that exclusively streams Resident Evil speedruns, and that's all he does. And he has consistent viewership with that because they know what he's going to be doing and they enjoy it. So it's really, again, we're going to say this a lot, just have fun with it. You need to be having fun with this. If you're not having fun, you're wasting your own time and you're wasting your viewers' time, and they're going to know it real quick and they're going to leave. So that's all we can really say. Do you and make sure you're having fun with it. And that's really it. It's that simple. As stupid as it sounds, it's that simple.
Cool. Well, I think are there any other things you want to bring up, Joel, that you could recommend in terms of, individual or multi game streaming?
Oh, I guess the last point I kind of bring up, which we tied into earlier, but I didn't really talk about specifically. One of the big benefits of playing just before jumping over is keeping that viewership. So keeping a starting viewer base. And what I mean by that is when you jump into a new game, the higher up you are on the directory, the better for whatever game it is. If no one's streaming it and you're the first person and the only person streaming it, that's a good spot to be in. Anywhere usually in the first or second row will get you a lot more clicks. And what that means is just that, you have a higher chance to grab people's attention. So I think when you're doing variety streaming and you're getting new people to come through, I try and be a little more active and chatty and really try and look at chat more often. I think it really helps because another one of my friends who's a pretty successful streamer basically told me that the way he sees it, you have about 20 seconds to grab someone's attention when they're clicking through, especially if they don't know who you are. And so if there's not really any intense action going on and you're not talking or saying anything, there's a good chance they'll leave, not because they didn't like your content, but just because they didn't see anything happen.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I do want to read this out loud. Do what you love and love what you play, and then find viewers who feel the same way. But yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of your input on it. And thank you again for joining us for this portion. We're going to take a quick intermission while we get everything switched over for our next guest, who's going to be Itchy Badass, who just hosted. Thank you so much for the host on console gaming. So give us just a moment. We'll get everything switched over and we'll be right back.